On Sunday, January 25th, the Fed's target range is 3.5 to 3.75%, while the 2-year Treasury yield is around 3.61, and the 10-year is about 4.26. Inflation is running 2.7% year over year. Core inflation is 2.6, and unemployment is 4.4%, with payrolls up just 50,000 in December. Now put that next to one more fact. The next Fed meeting starts Tuesday, January 27th, and the chair is facing a Justice Department criminal probe with an explicit threat of criminal charges hanging over the job. Those two realities shouldn't coexist, but they do. And that contradiction is the entire story, because markets don't just price inflation and growth, they price governance. They price whether a central bank can do its job without intimidation. And when that question gets dragged into courtrooms and election narratives, pricing can change faster than any dot plot ever could. Quietly. This week isn't about a quarter-point move, it's about the rules of the game. And the signal will show up in the one place that can't spin, the bond market. Pricing says, what words won't? Now here's the promise. Stay for 3 signals that separate headline noise from a real break in Fed independence, and a simple timeline that shows which week actually forces a repricing. Because the rate decision is almost priced, the language isn't. So let's set the table without drama. The Fed meets Tuesday and Wednesday, with the statement and press conference on Wednesday, January 28th. That part is normal. What isn't normal is that the chair publicly framed this moment as political pressure backed by legal threat. In a statement dated January 11th, Jerome Powell described the threat of criminal charges as intimidation tied to interest rate policy. That's not typical central bank language, that's emergency language. Translation: the Fed chair is telling everyone the institution is being tested, and markets don't like tests, markets like rules. So what's actually confirmed, and what isn't? Confirmed. There's reporting of a criminal probe tied to Powell's prior congressional testimony about Fed building renovations, plus subpoenas and political pushback. Confirmed. Some lawmakers are demanding records and calling the probe a pressure campaign. What's not the same thing is a formal charge filed in court. That distinction matters. A probe is pressure. Charges are escalation. Think of it like a storm watch versus a hurricane landfall. Both change behaviour, but only one forces immediate evacuation. So why does this change everything, even before a verdict? Because central banking runs on credibility, and credibility runs on independence. When independence is questioned, the market adds a premium for uncertainty. That premium shows up as higher long-term yields, a weaker currency, or both, even if inflation looks contained. That means this story is bigger than Powell as a person. It's a credibility event, and credibility events are non-linear. Small cracks, then big breaks. Now zoom in on the macro backdrop going into this week. Inflation at 2.7 year over year is not a reacceleration. It's sticky, but contained. Core inflation at 2.6 is the same vibe. Not victory, but not panic. The labour market is cooling, but not collapsing. Unemployment at 4.4 with payrolls up 50,000 is not boom math, but it's also not recession math. So the Fed has room to hold, and markets largely expect to hold. That's the calm surface. The stress underneath is the governance story, because political pressure creates a variable the models don't capture. Policy credibility risk, and the fastest way to understand credibility risk is to watch where people park money when they don't trust promises. Start with the front end of the curve. The 2-year Treasury yield around 3.61 is basically the market's shorthand for what the Fed will do next. The 10-year around 4.26 is different. The 10-year includes inflation expectations, growth expectations, and something that matters a lot right now, the term premium. That's the extra yield investors demand for uncertainty over time. In simple terms, the 2-year is about the next few meetings. The 10-year is about whether the institution remains trusted for the next decade. So the real question this week becomes, does political pressure raise the term premium? If yes, long yields rise, mortgages stay high, and rate cuts don't translate into cheaper borrowing the way people expect. If no, this stays a headline cycle. And macro dominates again. Now the why. When a central bank looks politically compromised, investors worry about one of two outcomes. Outcome 1, forced easing. Rates get pushed lower than inflation warrants, and the currency takes the hit. Outcome 2, forced hawkishness. The Fed overcompensates to prove independence, keeping policy tighter than the economy can comfortably handle. Either way, volatility rises. It's like a steering wheel that suddenly has two drivers. The car doesn't glide, it jerks. So what does Powell actually control this week? Not the political temperature, not subpoenas, not headlines. He controls the statement language, the press conference framing, and the committee's unity. And that's where the market will look for signal 1. Signal 1 is not, do they cut or hold? Signal 1 is, do they sound like a committee, or do they sound like a chair under siege? Listen for defensiveness. Listen for legal framing. Listen for any hint that policy is being explained through politics instead of data. Because if the Fed starts arguing its legitimacy, instead of explaining its reaction function, investors hear one thing: the institution is spending credibility. And credibility is a finite asset. Quick checkpoint. Inflation is 2.7. Unemployment is 4.4. Rates are 3.5 to 3.75. The macro case for a hold is clean, so if markets swing hard anyway, it won't be because the data forced them, it'll be because credibility did. Now signal 2. Signal 2 is the bond market's response after the press conference, specifically the spread between the 10-year and the 2-year in the days after. If the 10-year rises while the 2-year stays anchored, that's termed premium expanding. Translation: the market is demanding extra compensation to hold long duration because the institutional outlook feels less stable. If both fall together, that's a classic growth scare or cut path narrative. If both rise together, that's inflation or supply pressure. But 10-year up with 2-year flat, that's the credibility story bleeding into price. And yes, it can happen fast. Because huge pools of capital aren't debating vibes, they're running mandates, pension funds, insurers, foreign reserve managers. They don't argue, they rebalance. Picture a massive cargo ship turning. It looks slow until it hits the dock. Now signal 3. And this is the one most people miss. Signal 3 is what happens to the Fed's independence perimeter over the next few months. Not just headlines about Powell, but the legal and political precedent around whether Fed officials can be threatened, removed, or boxed in. Because once precedent shifts, every future chair becomes easier to pressure, regardless of personality. That's why this isn't only about Powell, it's about the firewall. And a firewall is either strong or it's not. Now put a calendar on it. First test, Wednesday, January 28th, the statement and press conference. Second test, the curve's behaviour into early February. Third test, Wednesday, February 11th, the next CPI release. If inflation cools and the Fed stays calm and unified, the market can treat the political noise as background. If inflation pops and the Fed looks defensive or fragmented, the market starts repricing the institution itself. That's when small cracks, then big breaks, stops being a metaphor. Now, why is the administration pressuring for lower rates at all? Because lower rates are politically popular. They feel like relief. They flatter asset prices. They reduce interest costs at the margin. But the Fed's job isn't popularity, it's price stability and maximum employment. And markets know the difference between a cut because inflation is falling and a cut because pressure is rising. That's why cuts aren't always bullish. Sometimes, cuts are a sign the system is bending. Here's the misconception that traps people. Most people think the Fed sets borrowing costs. In reality, the Fed sets a short-term target. And markets set the price of money across time. Mortgages price off longer-term yields. Corporate borrowing prices off long benchmarks plus credit spreads. So even if the Fed wins the short-term narrative, if the 10-year stays high, the economy doesn't feel relief. This is like a store putting a giant sale sign on the door, while quietly raising prices in the aisles. The headline says cheaper, the receipt says higher. Now let's walk the repricing channel in plain language. Step 1. uncertainty rises. Step 2, investors shorten duration. Step 3, long yields climb. Step 4, financial conditions tighten. That's the pattern. And it doesn't require a single rate hike. It just requires a marginal buyer stepping away. Think of the Treasury market like an auction. If the biggest bidders hesitate, the seller has to offer a discount. In bonds, a discount is a higher yield. That's why this political story can become a financial story almost immediately. Now, what would Powell charged actually change if it happened? It changes 3 things. First, it creates a succession question. Leadership uncertainty gets priced instantly. Second, it changes committee dynamics. Even if the committee stays intact, the chair's ability to guide consensus weakens. Third, it sets a precedent. Comply or face prosecution. And that last one is the systemic risk. Because it embeds political risk into the central bank's function permanently, that's why markets care. Not because they like Powell, because they like predictable rules. Echo 1, remember the promise. 3 signals separate noise from a real break. Signal 1 is the Fed's tone and unity. Signal 2 is term premium behaviour, 10-year versus 2-year. Signal 3 is precedent, the independence perimeter. Hold that, because the next part is where this gets real. If Wednesday's press conference sounds like a legal defence, the term premium won't wait for a verdict. That's the cliffhanger. Now bring it back to what can be observed in real time. The Fed funds range is 3.5 to 3.75. The 2-year is roughly 3.6. The 10-year is in the low 4s. Inflation is 2.7. Unemployment is 4.4. None of that screams emergency. So if pricing gets wild, it's not macro. It's trust. Pricing says what words won't. Now let's translate what to listen for into a practical brief. Start with the statement. If it stays short, clinical, and data-focused, that's the Fed signalling normalcy. If it adds unusual emphasis on the mandate, independence, or institutional integrity, that's the Fed signalling it hears the threat. Then the press conference. If questions about the probe get deflected quickly and the chair returns to inflation and labour conditions, normal. If the chair spends time on legitimacy, intimidation, or legal framing, not normal. This isn't about right or wrong, it's about what markets hear. Because markets translate words into probabilities, and probabilities into prices. Then the curve, the cleanest tell is whether the 10-year rises relative to the 2-year in the days after. If that happens, it's term premium. And term premium is the market's way of saying, the institution feels riskier. Now the final layer, the one that lingers after the cameras turn off, the independence perimeter. If political and legal pressure becomes a repeating tool, investors start assuming the next confrontation is likely, even if this one fades. And markets don't need a verdict to price a trend, they just need to believe the risk is durable. Echo 2. The payoff is the same. This isn't a rate story, it's an independence test. If it passes, markets go back to inflation, jobs, and growth. If it doesn't, the repricing won't start with a rate change. It starts with trust. Now the 3-signal dashboard, clean and simple. Signal 1, Fed tone and unity. If the chair stays purely data-driven and the committee looks cohesive, the institution absorbs the shock. If the messaging turns defensive or fractured, the market prices institutional stress. Signal 2, term premium. If the 10-year lifts while the 2-year stays anchored, the market is pricing governance risk, not inflation risk. Signal 3, precedent. If the legal and political firewall around Fed officials weakens over time, every future meeting carries a political premium. And the long end pays the price. Now the scorecard. 3 lines to track as this updates. 2-year yield around 3.6. Still anchored to hold. Inflation at 2.7. Sticky, not surging. Unemployment at 4.4. Cooling, not collapsing. And the closer. This week's Fed meeting isn't just a policy event, it's a stress test of independence. If it holds, the market moves on. If it cracks, the repricing won't wait for court dates. Because the dollar system doesn't run on charisma, it runs on credibility. And once credibility is questioned, the bond market starts doing the talking. Small cracks, then big breaks. Pricing says what words won't.